Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. If you love the 1990 wave of the original Ninja Turtle toys as much as I did, then I've got some great news for you. A ton of those characters made it to the small screen during the 5th season of the original TMNT Fred Wolf series. Mutagen Man, Muckman, Mondo Gecko, all the M guys, and of course, Wingnut and Screwloose. Thank goodness they made the cut, so 30 years later, NECA could make this really awesome 2-pack. I haven't even opened these guys up, and already, I'm in awe. Both of these guys are so much bigger than I expected them to be, and this box is easily the deepest I've seen in this series. Let's see, what do I got here? For a little comparison, here is the Punk Frog 2-pack. Look how thin that is compared to this Wingnut and Screwloose box. I really had no idea that these guys would be this big when NECA announced them way back in July, and I can't believe I have them already. Announced in July, put up for sale in November, and then received a week later, or 2 weeks later. You know, that seems crazy in this day and age. So what do you say we get started here already, because I'm super excited. Alright, this 2-pack comes packaged in the usual NECA 2-pack packaging, you know. It looks very much like the Party Wagon, where you got the yellow on the bottom, you got the green on the top. On the front here, you have 2 illustrations of Wingnut and Screwloose. Those actually look very on model with how they appear on screen. You have a giant window here, so you can see your giant Wingnut action figure. And man, that is a huge Screwloose. Like, I can't believe it, because, you know, way back in the day in the 1990 series, he was just a small little guy, and now he's like a fully formed individual. There you can see their weaponry. On the one side here, you got a nice shot of Wingnut, and on the other side, of course, you got a shot of Screwloose. On the back here, you can see some of the other figures in this line, like Chrome Dome. I still haven't reviewed him yet, but he is next. Mondo Gecko and Kerma, Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. Up here you have a little bit of information there, but it's nothing about Wingnut and Screwloose. It's just like, you know, a generic Ninja Turtle origin or something like that, you know. This is a really awesome shot here showing Wingnut and Screwloose. I think that looks pretty neat. You know, this here just has been amazing for this line. You know, lots of amazing, unique characters. And Wingnut and Screwloose here, you know, they're as unique as you can get. So, all right. So I'm going to open this guy up. I'm going to move him around a little bit, make sure that, you know, their joints aren't stiff. Hopefully I don't break anything, and I will talk to you in a little bit. Here's Wingnut and Screwloose, free from their box prison and ready to try to take over the world. These guys are huge, and Wingnut may be a little too huge. You know, he looks like he needs to lay off the Twinkies. But, you know, having a tubby Batman parody is just such a hilarious concept to me. Seriously, though, like, this 2-pack is just amazing. Like, I don't know, there's just something about, like, the colors and, like, the body proportions and everything like that that just, I think they're very appealing. So before I talk about these guys in excessive detail, and I am, you know, there's lots of things here I really, really want to talk about, such as Wingnut's wings. Like, the way that these are crafted is just amazing. You know, like, I always was a big fan of how in the original toy line, you know, the metal wings were kind of wrapped around his little tiny baby wings. Here, it's like fully formed, and you can really see everything well. You know, it's made out of separate pieces. And like I said, I'm going to talk about that a little more. I'll talk about that a little more later. But yeah, like, I just wanted to mention that really quick. So, like I said, before I get, like, a little crazy with all the detail here, first I just want to talk about how they appear in the original Fred Wolf series. Don't worry, though. It won't take long. It's only one episode. In the Season 5 episode, Zack and the Alien Invaders, Zack, the honorary 5th turtle and comic book connoisseur, reads the latest issue of Alien Invaders, and it rots his brain. Everywhere he looks, he sees, yep, you guessed it, Alien Invaders. Much like the boy who cried wolf, Zack calls for help and causes a commotion, but every time, the aliens are never what they seem. They're usually some blue-collared workers just trying to make a day's pay. Hey, I'm trying to make some money here, kid. Leave me alone. Eventually, everyone gets tired of his false alarms. The turtles take away his communicator and tell him that maybe it's for the best if he wasn't a turtle anymore. Ouch. So, you know, he tells his parents, and they tell him, don't worry, son, just chill out, and the turtles will accept you again as one of their own. Nah, Fooled you. They get sick of his crap too and they send him to military school. Double ouch. I like his mom when she leaves. Make sure to write us, son. Like, I don't think so, Mom. Why don't you ask my brother at home to write you some letters? At military school, Zack notices a few kids are acting weird, like they're brainwashed zombies. He meets another kid named Eric who's normal, but later that night he finds Eric has been tied up by two members of the faculty, two members named Sergeant Rambo and Colonel Clout. Zack watches from afar as Sergeant Rambo is revealed to be Wingnut and Colonel Clout is Screwloose. Wingnut and Screwloose tell their captor that they're two aliens from the planet Flaganon, and they're here to conquer Earth. They took over the military school to try and brainwash kids to help them. Oh my gosh! Alien invaders! Eric has his mind changed, and Zack decides that it's up to him to protect the planet Earth. In the gym, Wingnut and Screwloose admire their weapons and their giant roach bots that can eat through metal walls in seconds. Wingnut especially loves this Disintegrator Bazooka. Zack tries to spy on the two, but he's found out by a giant roach bot. For some reason, the roach steals his mask and just leaves the school entirely. Like, why? What was the point of that? Shouldn't he even try to eat him or something? Zack calls the turtles and tries to warn them about the alien invasion, but Screwloose captures him, cutting him off in mid-conversation. The turtles begin to worry about Zack, so Mikey and Don head for the school, while Screwloose heads Zack right to the Mind Changer device. April and Irma encounter the roach bot that stole Zack's mask at like a construction site, so, pretty much just so that they can call the other Ninja Turtles back in the sewer and say, hey, this roach bot has Zack's mask. So now Leo and Raph head to the school, but they don't even do anything, They kind of fly there in the blimp and they don't, really amount to any part of the story after this. At the school, Screwloose is about to change Zack's mind when he's interrupted by the school's doorbell. He sends Wingnut to answer. Wingnut pushes a button on his belt, which makes his disguise fly up and dress him. I assume just so the animators didn't actually have to animate him putting it on. Who's at the door? Why, it's Mikey and Donnie. Wingnut tells them to buzz off. Now, this next shot is kind of funny because when Wingnut went to answer the door, Zack was cuffed in the Mind Changer chair. How'd he get up? And if he wasn't cuffed before, he's just been sitting there this entire time while these guys are, what did they do? Were they like, hey, you stay in that chair? And he was like, oh, gee whiz, mister. I'll sit in this chair while you change my mind, sure. All right, so Mikey and Don catapult into the back of the school, and Don shuts off the power. When Wingnut investigates the power outage, the guys are shocked to learn that aliens are indeed among us. They try to rescue Zack, but they're grabbed by two roach bots. So now Don, Mikey, and Zack are all in the Mind Changer chair together. Before Screwloose is able to change their minds, Zack is able to reach down with his teeth and grab his honorary Ninja Turtle badge and throw it at the machine's central electrode, which shorts it out. That's friggin' amazing, Try that sometime. Just reach down with your teeth and throw something, 20 feet away from you. Where the hell was that badge that he was able to reach down and grab it with his teeth? He's not wearing it, so where did it come from? I don't get it. I know it's a cartoon and all, but come on, what is this? Now that the Mind Changer is destroyed, all the other kids in the school snap out of their zombie state. All of the students in the military school band together, and they stop the roach bots with a fire hose. So, just with a little bit of water, these giant roach bots are destroyed, and Wingnut and Screwloose run to their ship and abandon Earth. So you're telling me that these guys had the technology to fly across the universe, designed giant roach bots, but left them vulnerable to water? Were they just going to take days off when it rained? Was that the plan? Screwloose, we got all the world leaders trapped inside one building. We can crush them all and completely take over the world. What should we do? Well, I don't know, Wingnut. Did you look outside? It's overcast. It might drizzle today. I don't think we should make our attack. Also, in the gym, they had a huge stockpile of disintegrator bazookas. Did they forget about those? Does the risk of getting sprayed with water trump all forms of, like, bazookas and bombs and missiles and stuff like that?
Run, you fool! We're outmatched! I got a gun right here! Just give me 5 seconds and boom! I'll blow their brains out! What are you, moron? They have a hose! A hose! Nobody said nothing about no stinking hose! Let's get out of here!
This episode is like a little goofy, and yeah, I know it's a kid show and all, but when I was 7, I wanted cartoon makers to, give me a little bit of credit. I think one of the most interesting things about the episode is that they made Wingnut and Screwloose bad guys. In the original toy line, and even in the Archie comics, they were good guys. Here, they're just bad forever. I'm also glad that the Shredder had nothing to do with this episode. I'm glad he didn't mutate them, just because it's not the same old cliche story over and over again. Their personalities in this episode are like nothing special. Like Screwloose is just a typical bad guy, and Wingnut is kind of like his lackey, constantly doing all the dirty work. You would think it would be flipped, but it's not. Wingnut kind of reminds me of John Kay doing his Kirk Douglas impression, which you hear a lot in Ren and Stimpy. A few times in the episode, Wingnut jumps on the ceiling to hang upside down, but other than that, there's not much to mention. If you were like a big Wingnut and Screwloose fan, you might find this episode a little disappointing. Now that we're past Wingnut and Screwloose's only cartoon appearance, let's take a look at Wingnut. I'm a huge Batman fan, so I find Wingnut to be both awesome and hilarious. Just seeing this pudgy form dressed in Batman's clothes makes me picture late middle-aged Batman sitting alone in his cave. All of his villains are in jail or dead. The Robins all hate him, and he's been retired for years. When he sees on the news that a mutant gang has been maiming people in Gotham, is he inspired to go fight crime? No. He puts on his old bat suit, which barely fits him, and he decides to pig out on sweets. It can be called The Dark Chocolate Knight Returns. Here you can see Wingnut's face and head in the cartoon. And here you can see Wingnut's face and head on this action figure. I think they did a pretty decent job of matching all the proportions. But, some things are a little off. Some of the good spots, I think, are the ears. Those look pretty good. I like the black line in the middle and that shading in the center there to try to give it some kind of fake depth, I like how he sort of has his cross-eyed look, where his nose is kind of getting in the way of his eyes because it's so big. After that, though, like certain things like the nostrils are a little farther apart than they should be. Like in the cartoon, they seem to be a little closer together and all part of that one like long bit of nose he has. I don't know what you call that really. Like, is there any special name for a bat nose? On this action figure, you look at it and you can see that the nostrils are very far apart. Another thing is in the cartoon, his canines overlap his incisors. But if you look at my action figure, I can't tell if he was supposed to have canines painted in there or what is going on, because my paint is very sloppy. It almost looks like there's like a shape in there that's supposed to be the canines, but I really can't tell. Like, what does yours look like? His chin hair looks pretty good. The size of his eyes is pretty decent. I do like how like his eyebrows are sculpted. Like here, they're very prominent, and these black arched lines kind of emphasize them and, highlight them and make them stand out. In the cartoon, it almost looks like it's a design on his cowl. Those black arches, they don't necessarily look like eyebrows. They just kind of look like a design. Wingnut Suit is pretty simple, but it's pretty awesome looking, I like how he has those two overlapping shoulder pads. You have like the yellow ring around his neck and around his shoulders. He just kind of has like a pudgy body in the middle there. This action figure might be a little too, like, a little fatter than he appears in the cartoon, but it still looks fine. I think it's cool because it makes him stand out amongst all the other guys. He doesn't have a big, like, buff body or anything like that. To me, it's cool that he's so different compared to everybody else. On his arms, he has these bands that have these like arm pads on them. Those look pretty decent here. And that design is mirrored to the other side. Pretty much everything on his body is mirrored to the other side. He's got the same gauntlets on both sides. You can see that they look just like Batman gauntlets. Like they have the Batman blades. And now what's different about these gloves and the gloves in the cartoon is that these gloves have like one box here on this part on the forearm, but in the cartoon you have a box inside of a box. The design on the hand is actually pretty good. It matches the cartoon pretty closely. Sometimes in the cartoons there's only like 2 circles, and then a lot of times you have the 3 circles inside this one rectangle shape. His belt looks really cool. I think they did a very good job of matching the look of the bat face on this belt. I think it looks just like the cartoon. And then he just kind of has, you know, like Batman pockets or pouches on both sides of the belt. Are they the same? They are the exact same, which is perfectly fine. Like I said, in the cartoon, his whole look is pretty much mirrored from both sides. Although I think the wings are a little different, but I'll talk about that in a minute. All right, on the back here, I do like how his belt has a very interesting shape. You know, it's very unique how it kind of points down here and kind of loops around. Kind of has this extra room here for the tail to stick out. As you can see in the cartoon, he's got all that. I also think this shot makes it look kind of like he's got like a snowman face back there. You see that? On his thighs, he has these bands, kind of like the armbands. They also have the pads here. What's interesting to note is that this yellow is actually different than the yellow of the belt and the rings. You know, this is more of like a French's mustard yellow, and this is more of a Grey Poupon. And that's how it appears in the cartoon too, which is just kind of funny that that's like something that's different. You would think that they would all use all the same yellows. He's got these Batman boots on, but they're a little different than Batman's because Batman has one peak in the middle and Wingnut has these double peaks. So it looks even more like a bat head. So that's pretty cool. His 3 toes stick out of both boots. And in the back, you have like these spikes. The one comes out of the back of the calf, and the other one comes out of the back of his heel. So you can see all that. They just really outdid themselves with this guy. Like, he really looks like Wingnut appears in that cartoon. I love the design of Wingnut's wings. I think these look really awesome. You know, they definitely look like they're made out of different pieces of sheet metal and bolts and stuff like that. Plus you have these plasma rockets on the bottoms and the guns up top here. You know, it's very neat looking. In the cartoon, they try to be a little consistent, but sometimes they change a little bit. I do think that these wings on this action figure look pretty close to what the wings look like the majority of the time in the cartoon. This wing is a little different than the other wing. Or no, maybe yes, it is different, right? Because this piece is straight right here. And then if you look at the other side, you have these more curved bits and pieces. It's not 100% as it looks in the cartoon, but really, are you going to hold them to that? I mean, it looks fine. It looks perfect. I love how these wings are separate pieces than his actual bat wings underneath. They just kind of glued them together. You know, it really gives off that illusion that he's like, you know, an actual bat creature who has to fasten these metallic wings to his back. Unfortunately, though, there is a problem here. If you look at the back of his bat wings, they didn't paint this piece right here brown. Like, that is such a shame. Like, this is supposed to be brown because the bat wing, you know, goes from here and then goes underneath this strap and connects to his body underneath. But they left it gray. So, like, unfortunately, that's the only thing that, like, I have to complain about these wings. Other than that, they look phenomenal. Like, I love the way the brown contrasts with the metal. Like, all that looks great. But then you got this part here where they left it gray, which is such a shame because that's like something they sort of did with the original Wingnut action figure. And as you can see in the cartoon, that's supposed to be, you know, brown just like his wings. So that's just like one of those things where, you know, maybe I would paint it in the future or something. I'm not, but, you know, I just wish that they would have painted that brown. So like I said, these are supposed to be plasma rockets. That's what they are in the original toy. They look pretty good. These are a separate piece too. They're glued onto these wings. I love the guns up top too. I really like how they point out like that. Like, these wings just look great. You know, I am exceptionally happy with how this action figure turned out, despite my complaint about the unpainted wings. On this side, they're just the same exact shapes, you know, just glued into place. I don't know. His wingspan is pretty impressive. It's just such a very interesting design, you know. It's just one of those things that's just a nice little touch, you know. Like, he doesn't have regular bat wings. He's got little tiny wings, so he had to build these giant metal wings on top of them. Here's a little bit of trivia. In the original toy line, his biography states that Donatello built these wings for him. Donatello did not build him these wings in the cartoon because he is evil in the cartoon. Speaking about the original 1990 action figure, let's compare this new guy to the original. As you can see, pretty much all the same shapes are there. You know, like the very basic shapes and colors are there. You know, the blues match pretty well, the grays, the yellows. You know, he's got the gauntlets, the arm pads, the shoulder pads, the leg pads, the belt. But, you know, just so much of the fine details are missing from the cartoon version, which is, you know, understandable. They had to streamline this guy and make him very simple so that he was easy to animate. So, unfortunately, they had to cut a lot of stuff out. Let's take a look at some of the cool things that they cut out for the cartoon. As you can see, the original action figure had a much more realistic bat face. You know, there's lots of texture and stuff like that on here that is just missing from this. Even his nose looks much more like a realistic bat nose. So that's something. Some cool things that they took out, like if you look at the original arm bands, like these pads actually look like metallic plates, and there's like rivets to keep these in place. Like some of these shapes like this, how they just have this square, that was originally like a, you know, like a control panel. There's lots of buttons and stuff here. Maybe some Predator self-destruct buttons. If you look on this side, you can see that, you know, how his hand here has like this this rectangle with these 3 circles inside of it. Well, on the original action figure, that shape was there, only it looked more like brass knuckles or something like that. What's cool too about the original Wingnut is that even though he has like these pads on both sides, they're not the exact same. Like the arms aren't mirrored, they're different. So all these like buttons on the control pad are different. He doesn't have the W on his chest. You know, there's lots of little details like this little piece around the neck or like the hole in his stomach where you can actually see his skin underneath. The leg pads are also look like metallic plates with rivets and stuff like that. They do keep some of the like texture on the boots to try to make them look like wrinkled material. So that's cool. The belt is missing a lot of stuff. You know, it does have the funny the funny bat face, but like so many of these other cool things are missing. You got a pouch on that side, so they kept that. But on the other side, you know, you got like this big dynamite bomb, and on the back you have like a wingarang. That's a knockoff of a batarang. The wings are actually very similar. You know, they're pretty cool looking. I would make the argument that they made the wings even better in the cartoon because some of these things are a little more thought out, like how the guns stick out further and these plasma rockets look a lot nicer. Here they're a little flat, you know, like the guns just kind of stick out to the side and this thing is kind of squished in there. But it still has all that like plated metal look. You still have that, how it's wrapped around his, you know, his tiny wings. There are spots on here where you can plug in the bat bomb and the bat gun. And of course, you know, not painting the wings didn't start now. It started all the way back in the early 90s because the original Wingnut did not have the wings painted at all in the back. So at least now we got something. Maybe Super 7 will paint the whole wings. We'll see. Who knows? One thing that's missing on this brand new one, or from the cartoon, was these extra like booster rockets, whatever these are supposed to be here. Those do not exist either. But in general, you know, it does do a good job of mimicking the look. You know, it's pretty nice that, much like Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, Wingnut is actually pretty accurate to his action figure. It's just, you know, like I said, a lot of details are missing. But in general, the general shape is there. Another thing to mention too, really quick, is that the original eyebrows are very prominent. They do look like eyebrows, unlike the cartoon where it looks like just like a design on his cowl. I tried to take a look at this guy and see if he had any reused parts, and I'm like 99.9% sure that he is completely unique. Like I said, he's got this kind of fatter body, the upper torso and the lower torso. That all looks new. The arms look very new. These gauntlets are new. The head, of course, the legs are new. The only thing that I was like unsure about was the hands. For the most part, Ground Chuck and Dirtbag have the same exact hands. Well, like it's like they have a 0 hand, and then they kind of changed it a little bit depending on which character it was. I thought maybe they did that too with Wingnut, but now I'm certain that they did not, because it looks similar this direction, but just the placement of the peg is different. Wingnut has chubbier hands, and then once you turn it all the way around, you can see that the thumb is like in a completely different spot. And that's not all either, because if you look like the like the open palm hand, even that too is completely brand new. Like the hand, or the fingers are shaped differently. So like I said, I'm pretty sure that this guy is completely unique, which is pretty awesome. All right, now articulation. Wingnut has some pretty decent articulation. I think that some of his movement is pretty good, and some of it might be a little strange. Some of the joints are just a little odd. I think his head joints are pretty good. Wingnut has a ball joint here at the base of his head, and then he also has another ball joint at the base of his neck. So you can actually get him to look up pretty well. You can also get him to look down pretty well. And, you can just get him to look side to side. And, yeah, I don't know. He's got some good head movement there. That's pretty awesome. He's got some upper torso articulation here. Now, this is one of the parts where I think it might be a little weird, because there's a big gap between his upper body and his belly. So you can notice that pretty simple. It doesn't really shift, like, he can't really rotate forward and back very much. Mostly just from, like a swivel around. Like, that's most of the movement you're going to be able to get with this guy. He has no lower torso articulation, so you can't twist him in the belly. All right, so at the shoulder here, you have a hinge. Plus, you can rotate it all the way around, but you can only rotate it up to where you hit the shoulder pads. Now, here's another point that's kind of weird for me. He's got double jointed elbows, and I absolutely do not like the way that these look. Like, look how kind of big his arm looks, like the bicep right there, and then you get to the elbow joint, and it's just like this skinny little tube of plastic. Like, it's very jarring and very strange. And then you get to the gauntlet, and it's like big again. So like this piece here, it should have just been bigger. I feel like I would have preferred single jointed elbows, and yeah, just the shape is just kind of strange. It doesn't match well with the rest of the body. I mean, that's another thing too, is his hands keep on coming out really easily. I understand that maybe they're trying to go for like a baggy look, like his like this is still kind of baggy as it's going down the whole arm, but it's just too thin, like especially from a profile view. So in the hand here, you can rotate that around. Plus, you have a hinge. Like I said, my hands keep on popping out really easily. Down here in the legs, you have a pretty decent ball joint here, where the ball goes in there, and then the thigh wraps around that. So you can actually move that around pretty well. You can get lots of movement and lots of distance, right? Then you have a cut right across this pad, or this band that goes across his leg. That's where you can rotate it. So, like, I had a hard time getting that to move to begin with, but once I got it to move, now it moves very easily. He's got single jointed knees, and these look good. I wish that he had these kind of joints in the elbows, because they look perfectly fine. I mean, your movement is limited, but it just looks more practical. It looks fine. You don't have any kind of rotation at the boot cut, and then his ankles. I was having a hard time getting his ankles to move. They do have a hinge there, and you do have ankle rockers, but for some reason, getting them to move is just a little difficult. I don't know why. All right, so in the back here, his tail is articulated. You have a hinge there, and you can rotate the tail all the way around, so that's fine. The wings here are articulated. They have like little, what do they call them, like notches or something like that. So the wings will actually stay in place once you move them around. So it's just not easy, you know, they're not sliding all over the place. And they can rotate around. Now, on to Screwloose. Now, in all honesty, this guy is a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be. You know, I thought he was going to be tiny. Maybe not as small as Joe Eyeball, but definitely not as big as this guy. I mean, he is an alien, so I'm not complaining. I'm perfectly fine with him being this big. I'm just, you know, making my, letting you know what my initial feelings on this guy was. He's big, you know, it's pretty cool. Just like Wingnut, Screwloose here has all brand new parts, which is pretty awesome because, you know, you're really getting, you know, a lot of good quality here for your the money you're spending on this NECA action figure. For a while there, it seemed like a lot of the, you know, the figures that were being released, like the Triceratons and Rocksteady, Bebop, Leatherhead, and stuff like that, they were all kind of based on the same body. But it's pretty awesome that NECA is like pumping some extra money into this wave and making all these brand new figures. Like this guy looks awesome. Like I love it when they can like do a good job of giving a character 4 arms, you know, making it look correct. Sometimes, you know, back in the day, you would get toys with 4 arms and it was kind of weird. Like, you remember Forearm in the X-Force series? Like how they were just kind of like grafted together? You know, that didn't work out. But this guy, you know, he looks pretty cool. That brings me to another thing. It's like, what's up with Screwloose's outfit, you know? In the Archie comics, he wore a like a Robin outfit, which made a lot of sense because, you know, Wingnut is a parody of Batman. You know, he's a spoof. But here, and the original toy line, this is just a strange outfit, you know? He's got an orange tank top on, and he's wearing, like, purple dress slacks with, like, wingtip shoes. How does that make any sense? He looks like he's, like, you know, just got home from a long day at the office, and he decided to take his top off, but he still has his dress pants on underneath. And he's like, you know, just going to go sit down and slouch in his, you know, his lazy boy and watch some TV. You know, there's just not a lot you can really compare with him and the original, you know, cartoon. His design is so simple. There's not really much to go over. You know, he sort of has this long nose that's kind of crunched up, like he accidentally ran it into like a piece of sheet metal or something like that. I feel like the expression on his face looks really awesome. You know, he definitely looks like he's like a conniving alien who's up to no good. One of the weird aspects of this action figure is just this seam line that comes underneath his mouth and goes through the back of the head. Now, that might be something that really turns you off. You know, you might not like that. I think it's a little distracting, but not the worst seam I've ever seen. You know, it's there, but, you know, I can get over it. I can look past it. So he's got the 2 wings. He's got the 4 arms and the orange tank top. The backs of his forearms have these, like, spikes sticking out of them, which is pretty cool looking. In the back here, you have this, like, green tail. Now, it'd be interesting if that actually got filled up with blood or something in the cartoon, but no, that doesn't happen. And he just has these purple slacks or dress pants on and dress shoes. Like, what is up with this? Why is like only some of them professional, and then the other half of him is like he's at a barbecue or something like that? What's up with that? The original Screwloose from 1990 is just a little tiny guy. You know, he has no articulation. He can barely stand up on his own. Most of the times I just kind of hang him on Wingnut and that's it. You know, like the way his legs are shaped, like I can't get him to stand up right. He always falls forward. His eyes are pretty zany. You know, they're kind of going all over the place. You know, this this Screwloose, he doesn't really fit the name Screwloose because he's not crazy or anything like that. Like this guy, you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's Screwloose. That guy's a crackpot, you know? He does have the same outfit, you know, his belly button is sticking out of there underneath his tank top, and he does wear the dress pants, and, you know, those could possibly be boots on the bottom there. You know, they don't necessarily have to be dress shoes. Maybe he is all working man, unlike this Screwloose. He does have those spikes on the backs of his arms, so that's cool. They carried that over. His wings are a lot more detailed. But his tail is pretty much exactly the same. It's kind of segmented in balls like that. But yeah, he's got a longer, skinnier nose, and I don't know. The original Screwloose is pretty cool looking. Now on the Screwloose's articulation. Now this guy actually has a pretty decent amount of articulation for being a smaller figure in this line. You have a ball jointed neck or head. That's good. You know, mine's a little stiff. It always makes that squeaking sound, but that's good because, you know, the head isn't like flying all over the place. It'll actually stay in place once you move it to where you want it to be. You have 4 shoulder joints because he's got 4 arms. They all have hinges and they can rotate around. He has single jointed elbows on all 4 arms, so they can swivel all the way around, plus they have a hinge. The hands swivel, and they also have a hinge. Although, like, this is one of those figures where, like, all the joints were painted this color, and now they're all worn down because I moved them one time. So, like, that yellow peg in there is a little bit of different yellow than the arm. Now, he is a little stiff in that he has to stand completely straight up because he has no articulation in his upper torso. The only thing he can do is kind of twist on the this, like, t-shirt joint here. You know, he's got nothing down here that I can... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that doesn't move at all. His tail spins all the way around. His wings have a hinge, plus they can spin all the way around too, so that's good. He has ball-jointed hips, and you can actually get some pretty decent movement with this. You know, it doesn't feel like it's going to break. It feels nice and responsive. The knees are single-jointed knees. They can rotate about that far, plus they also can swivel around. Although this, like this knee flap here kind of stops it from doing like a 360. You do have hinges in the ankles. Mine are a little stiff and hard to move. And he does have ankle rockers. And that is all. Time to talk about scale. In the cartoon, the top of Screwloose's head is around the bottom of Wingnut's pecs. Yeah, pecs, right. This action figure is actually a little taller than that. Like I said, I think that, you know, despite being awesome and kind of big, he probably is a little too big if you really want to get it accurate to the cartoon. Unfortunately, in this episode, there's never really any clear shots of the guy standing next to these 2 alien invaders. They don't really battle or anything like that. And you just kind of get the impression that, you know, Wingnut is bigger than them and Screwloose is smaller. So, again, I think it's the same case of, you know, Wingnut looks pretty good next to these guys, but Screwloose just looks a tad bit too big. But, you know, it's fine. I mean, he is an alien mosquito after all. I'm really impressed with these guys. You know, despite a few problems, like Wingnut's teeth, Wingnut's weird elbows, and the unpainted parts of Wingnut's wings, I think these dudes are amazing. Now, let's talk about accessories. First up, you have the Disintegrator Bazooka. Now, Wingnut and Screwloose talk about these, and Wingnut picks one up when they're in the gym. Wingnut doesn't ever get to use this against the turtles, but he does accidentally shoot a rocket at one of the walls, and, you know, Screwloose kind of yells at him. So despite this thing looking pretty awesome and having a nice design, its screen presence is just a huge letdown. Unfortunately, mine has a problem too. You know, I like how these crosshairs and stuff like that come off the top of the gun, but mine, the super glue, wore apart like really quick. You can see Luckily, the tab didn't break, but you can see on here that there's like a little tiny bit where the super glue attached to the gun. So I'm going to have to re-glue this. Does anybody know any good glue to use for this kind of job? You know, other than that, it looks pretty awesome. But I'm going to have to like try to put this crosshair somewhere where I won't lose it, because I feel like, you know, every time I move this thing around, it falls off and I'm like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I got to like put it in a safe or something. Wingnut can hold the Disintegrator Bazooka really well. It fits perfectly in his grip hands. His one finger can get pretty close to actually looking like a trigger finger and fitting right on the trigger. There is a little bit of a problem where I kind of talked about this earlier about how my hands are a little loose. The pegs are just a little loose, so it kind of flops around a little bit. And also, you know, it's kind of hard to maybe get like a straight shot with this thing because of how he has to hold it in order to shoot straight. So it might look a little strange. Probably have to have like more like a two-handed. Oh my gosh. The hands are not working out for me here with this guy. This is honestly like the first NECA figure I've ever had where the hands have popped out like this. You know, most of the times you're like begging that they don't break when you're trying to exchange the changeable hands, but you know, I mean, this looks okay, I guess, if you kind of rest it with the one hand and kind of hold it close to his body. Up next, you have a sticker sheet. Up top is a wanted sign for the leader of the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang. He used to be the sensei of the Slash for Cash dojo. That was until the Shredder came along and completely showed him up. Now this guy, like, bows before the Shredder and does whatever he says. This was in the Season 2 episode, Return of the Shredder, and ever since then, he never makes another appearance. The W on the bottom left is a sticker that you can take off and put on Wingnut's chest if you'd like, to try to make him look like the original action figure. I'm not going to do this, though, because I'm probably just going to leave this alone. That weird shape on the bottom right is actually a map that belongs inside of Splinter's kimono. That was shown in the Season 3 episode, Case of the Hot Kimono. This map leads to the treasure of Emperor Nakamura. And, you know, that episode features April's aunt, Aggie. And, you know, on a side note, I've always hated her. Will I take this sticker off and put it inside of Splinter's kimono? Probably not. You know, like I said, I will leave the sticker sheet alone. I think all these things are pretty neat, but, you know, I probably won't use them because I have a problem with using stickers. Next up, you have 3 comics. And I actually mentioned 2 of these in my 2017 to 2020 All NECA Accessories Explained, well, Fred Wolf accessories. But at that time, I didn't know what the backs of these comic books were, so now that I have the backs, I can talk about them a little bit more. The Bugman comic appeared in the Season 5 episode, Michelangelo Meets Bugman. Take a guess what happens in that one. Mikey meets Bugman. Can you believe it? And they fight this dude called the Electro Zapper. As you can see, both Bugman and Electro Zapper are on the cover of this comic book. On the back, you can see Willy Wombat's Pizza Pan Theater. Willy Wombat appears in the Season 6 episode, Phantom of the Sewers. He's pretty much a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic ripoff. You know, these eventually come to life, and they fight the turtles. Ooh, spooky. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's before Five Nights at Freddy's existed. Next, you have the Alien Invaders comic. Of course, this appeared in the Season 5 episode, Zack and the Alien Invaders. I mentioned it and talked about it quite a bit in this video. If you skipped around, go back a little bit. Just check it out. As I mentioned in this video earlier, this comic book rots Zack's brain and causes him to think there's aliens walking among us, which there are. On the back here, you can see that there is a picture of Creepy Eddie. Now, who's Creepy Eddie? Well, Creepy Eddie appeared in the Season 6 episode, Nightmare in the Lair. Eddie is able to invade the Ninja Turtles' dreams. He talks and looks just like Jason Voorhees. No, that's not right. Come on. You don't think I know that he's a spoof of Michael Myers? Up next, you have the Captain Cow comic. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This is actually the second version of this video I released today. Earlier, I released a version where I said that I didn't know where this was from. You know, I needed some help. And what do you know? A viewer by the name of Jeremiah Napier filled me in, and he steered me in the right direction. So, Jeremiah, thank you very much. I had just assumed that this was like a random object that, you know, was either in the turtle's lair or, you know, just somewhere. But I was wrong. In the Season 6 episode, Rock Around the Block, the Shredder and the rest of the Technodrome crew are stuck in the Arctic. Krang devises an evil plan, which he hopes will finally free them from their icy prison. Use a giant space laser to melt the ice. Whoa. But in the meantime, Shredder's sick of Bebop and Rocksteady's mess, so he tells them to go clean their room. Here's where you get to see Bebop and Rocksteady's massive comic book collection. Before they can even get started, they start to fight over who the actual owner is of this awesome, amazing collection. As the story progresses, Krang does indeed get the ability to melt the Technodrome out of the ice. And the turtles are stumped, you know, what can we do to stop the Technodrome from traveling the world and flattening New York City? And that's when Donatello suggests they use woo-wee. What the heck is woo-wee? Well, woo-wee is a technique where if they focus really hard, they can make bad things happen to bad people. Somehow, these totally negative, bodacious vibes travel to Bebop and Rocksteady aboard the Technodrome, who are still fighting over their Captain Cow comic book. Ridiculous, right? So with their mind suggestions or whatever they're doing, the turtles cause them to rip their comic book, and this sends Bebop flying right into the laser control panel, which then causes the laser to melt the ice underneath the Technodrome, which sends the Technodrome deep within the ocean. And now for the rest of the season, the Technodrome is stuck there in the dark depths of the ocean floor. So here you can see the front. And here you can see the front of this actual toy comic book. And here in their massive pile of comic books, you can sort of see, it looks like Alien Invaders. So here you can see the back of this comic book. And now here you can see the toy comic book back. Wingnut has 3 sets of hands, and you know, I think all these hands are perfect. I can't think of any other hands that I would like him to have. You know, you have a set of fists, which is great because I can't even hold on to him. You know, you want him to punch guys in the face sometimes. He has a set of gripping hands, which is great too, so he can hold his Disintegrator Ray, or Disintegrator Bazooka, with either the right or the left hand. You know, I'm not prejudiced against left-handed people, even though I'm right-handed. And he has a set of open palm expressive hands, which are great too, because I think you can use these to grab the turtles, hold them up in the air. You can get him into some diabolical poses, like he's like, ha 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 ha, sort of stuff like that. And you could just use them to kind of like emphasize different poses. You know, these are great. And last, you have a NECA flight stand. You know, this isn't anything specifically Ninja Turtles. You can go buy these, you know, whenever you want to in the NECA section at the store. But it's just nice that they included this, you know. They're very easy to put together, I think. Yeah, you just kind of have to line the things up the right way and kind of, you know, crunch it in there without breaking it. And this piece just kind of hooks up here. Now, like, one thing that I will say about this NECA flight stand is that I kind of wish that they had like more of a like, every time you look at it, it's like curved or angled. I kind of wish that there was a more flat, like, resting place for this thing. Like, I don't know if I'm doing it incorrectly or what, if there is a way to rotate this to try to keep it nice and flat. But every time I always set my guys up, they're always a little angled like this, you know, a little crooked. But it's still a nice stand. It works well. And you can You gotta get a little screwdriver too if you want to tighten up these screws. Alright, so here's Wingnut and Screwloose with some, like, only some of the NECA action figures. You know, this line is so gigantic, like, I can't even shoot all the guys on screen at the same time anymore. You know, it's just preposterously big. I try to fit in every body type in this line that I have at the moment. As you can see, these guys, you know, stand out. You know, they are very different compared to everybody else. And yeah, like, this line is just phenomenal. You know, I can't wait to see what we get next year. Here's Wingnut and Screwloose next to a couple of NECA's Mirage Ninja Turtle action figures. Here's Wingnut and Screwloose next to some of Super 7's Ultimate action figures. You know, they don't necessarily fit in detail-wise. They're a little too simple, but I think they definitely have the bulk of the Ultimates action figures. I actually think that this Wingnut and Screwloose scale well with these Ultimates figures. Here's Wingnut and Screwloose next to some of Playmate's Ninja Turtle Classic figures. And that's it. These two really are amazing, you know. Both this 2-pack and the Dirtbag and Ground Chuck 2-pack really raise my expectations for future figures in this line. You know, I hope everything NECA announces next year is as good as these guys. Not that the older figures are bad, it's just that, like, something really stands out here. I'm not really sure what it is. It just seems like NECA has sort of leveled up a little bit or something. I don't know. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and talk to you later. By the way, I almost called this dude Man-Bat like 400 times while making this video.